What is going on? We are back here. We are predicting the entire 2023 season for the Baltimore Ravens. We'll be going through and doing every single team in this series. And yes, I will keep the wins and losses consistent. Let's get right into it. Week 1 against the Houston Texans. I think Baltimore handles business here. CJ Stroud's going to have a tough week 1. Baltimore's going to be at full strength. They are not an easy team to beat. I think they win week 1. Week 2 against the Bengals. The Ravens usually beat the Bengals at the early part of the season, so I think the Ravens can beat the Bengals in week 2. They usually start to struggle against the Bengals as they get their footing later on in the year, so I think the Ravens start out 2-0, and I think they will continue that being 3-0 as they will beat the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not really high right now on the Colts. I think Anthony Richardson could be a solid player someday down the line. But right now, I just don't think he's going to be that guy week 1, week 2, week 3. I just don't think he will be. I think the Colts have a couple years from being a solid team again. So I just don't see them beating them. I also think Baltimore will handle business against Cleveland. I'm just not sold right now on Deshaun Watson. He was not very good last year. He hasn't been very good in a little bit. He has hardly played in a long time. And I just don't see them winning in week 4 against the Ravens. The Ravens will start the season 4-0, and they will continue it winning in week 5 against Pittsburgh. I think, honestly, it's a hard bet against them, saying they will lose to Pittsburgh at the beginning of the season. Like I said, the Ravens usually here recently haven't finished the seasons out well. They usually start them out really well, and I think they're going to continue doing that as they will start 6-0 because I think they will beat the Tennessee Titans as well in London. The first time Baltimore has ever played in London. I'm just not really sold on this Tennessee Titan roster. They're kind of rebuilding, but not fully. They need to not really play Tannehill. They need to see what their two young guys have. Had Tannehill back them up. But I don't think they're going to beat the Ravens here in week 6, but I do think the Ravens' first loss will come against the Lions in week 7. I think the Lions are going to be a solid team next year. They showed a lot of flashes last year. They almost beat the Ravens a couple of years ago. I think the Lions pull off this week 7 victory over the Ravens, handing them their first loss of the season, but they'll hop right back on the wagon and they will win in week 8 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are not going to be a good team next year. Kyler Murray might play and might make them a little bit better, but right now I'm not sold on the Cardinals at all. Baltimore here 7-1 going into week 9 where they will get their second loss. I think that, I think the Seattle Seahawks might take another step forward than what they were last year. Unless Geno Smith takes a step back, which is a possibility. He may not be as good as he was last year, but I still think that the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a tough team to beat, and I think they will hand Baltimore their second loss of the season. And they will get back in the win column once again after that loss, as they will go into as they will go ahead and beat the Cleveland Browns. I really think this is a pretty simple win here. I think that Cleveland, they're playing in Baltimore. It's not going to be an easy win at all for them. And again, I'm not sold on Cleveland. They are far the worst team in that division. Deshaun Watson just, unless he comes back to what he was a few years before all the stuff that happened, I do not think that Cleveland's going to be that competitive. However, the Bengals will get their revenge from week 2 and they will beat the Ravens in week 11 on Thursday Night Football. This is roughly when the Bengals really hit their stride and Baltimore kind of struggles a little bit. And I think that's where this is going to go down. I think the Bengals will pull off that victory. And it's going to continue as they're going to go ahead and lose in week 11 to the Chargers. I think the Chargers are a solid team. They're ready to break through. It's always tough for them because they have Kansas City in their own division. Plus, they play in the AFC, which is a tough conference. But I think they'll pull off a great win here against the Ravens. Could be a really good game. It could not be, depending on Lamar Jackson's health, because this is roughly when he gets hurt. They have a bye in week 13, so obviously nothing's going to happen there. And the Ravens are fantastic off of a bye, so the Rams, unfortunately, you get them after the bye. You will lose that game to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens will win that game, being, what are they? They've lost 4 games. yeah, the Ravens are just dominating right now. It is a solid roster, and I think if you keep Lamar healthy all year, some of these pretty easy teams are not going to win these games. And like they're what 9-4, something like that right now. I just don't think the Rams are going to pull off the victory. Although I do think Jacksonville will upset them one more time down in Duval County. Baltimore didn't look great there. They struggled a little bit. They did put up a decent amount of points. That was without Lamar, but I think Jacksonville is on the rise, handing them their 5th loss of the season. But I don't think it's going to stop there, as I think the Ravens are losing in Week 16 as well. Not a good loss here. I mean, it's the Niners. They're a stacked roster, top-tier defense, top-tier pass catchers, running backs, all that stuff. Quarterback can always be a little iffy, but honestly, San Francisco's got so much polish there that they can throw anybody in at quarterback, and that team succeeds as long as they actually have a quarterback on their roster. I do think the Ravens will come back and beat the Dolphins, though. I'm pretty high on Tua as long as his brain doesn't get turned into mush again. As long as the Dolphins actually treat him properly. But I do not think they will beat the Ravens, a healthier Raven team, which is what I'm trying to predict here. I'm not going to predict Lamar getting hurt like he has the last few years because, then they probably lose every game after that. But I think they will end up pulling off this win against the Dolphins, getting their revenge from last year. And I think they will end the season off with a win against Pittsburgh. This really comes down to if they need to play their starters. I think personally they probably will for the division, and Cincinnati will be kind of right there. I think they have to play for the win. And with that, the Baltimore Ravens will go 11-6 this season. I think that's a solid record. They could win the division. You'll have to watch the rest of these series to see if they do. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I'll see you in the next one.